Division twice. Division 23 West. Division 23 East. Don't be shy. And then we move to 23 Central.
Good evening, everyone.
We have some clubs there. Go ahead, yes.
My name is Nakisha Irvin. I'm from Kiwanis Club of Nation Builders. And I'm happy to be here tonight. Yeah.
Do you have anybody in your delegation, Nakisha?
No, I'm a member. I'm on. I haven't seen anyone as yet, but I know they probably log on later on in the meeting.
Okay, spread the word because as you know, Nation Builders is a part of our family. So we're happy for your presence and we look forward to the others who are going to join us later on.
You're welcome.
No problem. Anybody else from Central Division? Go ahead.
Hello.
Good night.
Oh.
Hello.
All right, Stefan, I
go?
recognize you, Stefan. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Stefan's iPhone.
So speak or wait until she speak now, or
yes, go ahead. Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm Stefan Spencer. I'm non-Kiwanis Club, non-Kiwanis member person. And Stuart Spencer's my dad. So okay. He introduced me to join this with the hurricane
right
session. Yeah, so and I'm interested to hear what are the benefits of the hurricane, you know, and so forth. So
all right,
yeah.
So welcome, Stefan. And you're not a non-Kiwanian, you're a guest and always a potential future Kiwanian.
And I'm actually in Canada. I'm not in Jamaica now.
Oh, good. Which part of Canada are you?
Toronto. Side Scarborough, Fearon side, Toronto.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah.
And the temperature there is what at this time?
Good.
Well, right now it's hot. I'm not sure the temperature right now because I don't really know sure right temperature, but it's like it be hot right now. It's not warm. It's like in between. Actually, it's a little bit humid, like slight humid, but not that much. But it's not chilly, it's not cold. Right. It's so it's a fair good weather.
Yeah. The average temperature in Jamaica is around 30 to 31 degrees Celsius. So it's warm, and as I'm sure Mr. Fearon will tell you, that also contributes to hurricanes and development of hurricanes, unfortunately.
Okay.
All right, but glad to have you on board, and I hope you enjoy the meeting. I think I saw Jacqueline.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
Jacqueline, I think I saw your.
Yes. Good night. I am President Jacqueline from the Kiwanis Club of West St. Andrew. We so far have online 4 of our members. We're hoping to have the others join in. We are delighted to be here, and especially the topic. I'm looking at the flip side. What are the benefits of hurricane? It sounds to be interesting. So we are here to listen and to learn and to participate. Thank you.
Okay. Listen, learn, and participate. We're glad for all of that. Thank you, President Jacqueline. That's West St. Andrew. Good night. Go ahead. I think I see Cheryl. Cheryl, go ahead.
Yes. Good night, everyone. When I joined, I heard you were asking about guests. I tried to mute, but it didn't happen. So I'm sorry to come in at this time because you already asked about guests. But I'm actually a guest. My name is Cheryl Denton Roy. I'm from Mandeville. And I am joining because I saw where Mr. Fearon will be presenting. We are colleagues, and whenever Mr. Fearon presents, it's always very interesting, very interesting. So I'm actually anxious to hear about the benefits of hurricane. And I've always been excited about Kiwanis. When I travel overseas, I get the chance to visit Kiwanis Club with my family. So yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, and after the meeting, I'm sure you can find a Kiwanis Club. I'm not sure if there's one in Mandeville. There should be a Kiwanis Club of Mandeville. Somebody can clarify, but try and find one that is close by to you, and get more involved. It's a good movement. But
yes, certainly. Certainly.
Happy to have your presence, Cheryl, and I'm glad. I assume you have light and internet, hence you're joining us. So you should
none of the above.
No?
None of the above. I'm joining with my data, but you can feel the fact that I'm joining with my data, I really want to be here.
Okay. Appreciate that. So I hope you get light back soon. The water, I assume you have, or is water?
No, none of those.
Oh, Lord.
Still nothing. We are waiting on our time, our blessing.
Yeah. we pray that it comes sooner rather than later.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, Kiwanians and guests, you can also we try to make our meetings very interactive. So you can use the chat feature on the Zoom. If you have any questions or comment, please use that. I'll see a guest, Mr. Fearon is saying good evening to everybody, and especially to you, Mrs. Denton Roy. So I'm just extending his greetings to you. So please use the chat as you see fit. We look forward to everybody's contribution. So I'm gonna
good evening. Good evening,
yes,
PD Stephen.
Hi, DP.
Hello, it's good to be with you guys again. And for another interesting topic. Like everybody else, I'm anticipating what we're gonna hear this evening because I've never heard about the benefits of a hurricane. So let's see what's there. Not that I will wish for the next one to come because of those benefits either.
Yes.
So far there are 5 of us joining you online, and I think a few more may join for this interesting topic. So cheers to an enjoyable evening listening to this.
Thank you, DP Yannick, and the rest of the members of Stony Hill Club, Kiwanis Club of Stony Hill. I was gonna no pun intended, but every cloud has a silver lining. So that's the closest joke I can come up with in the circumstances. So I like you are looking forward to Mr. Fearon's presentation later on.
Indeed.
But glad to have you and your delegation with us this evening. Opening it up as we wind up the welcomes and introduction. Is there any Kiwanis Club that has not introduced themselves? Any guests? Or any other Kiwanian who would like to say a word before we move past this section? If not, I thank you again, everybody, for coming out. Those of us who are still suffering from the hurricane, our prayers and our thoughts are with you. And we hope that Jamaica as a country is restored as quickly as possible back to normal. But Jamaica, at the end of the day, is still a blessed country. And we have to give God thanks for what, even though there are hardships that what we have gone through, it could have been much, much worse. And with that, President Newton, I hand you back the microphone and the meeting back to you.
Thank you, PD Stephen. Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. I have to be checking since I'm using my phone. All right. And I'd like to add my voice, and I'm sure everyone else on the platform would like to add their voice of congrats to VP Hope Marks, who has done us proud. And I can see why you missed PD Stephen, because I see the ladies have been pulling us forward. And they have been grabbing the positions, and I just want to say congrats, and to the men, boy, we better step up. I'd also want to say congratulations to the Kiwanis Club of Providence, that's in Montego Bay, because they copped the first place for the signature project. They also copped the first place for the signature project at International Condu. So congrats to them.
Yes. And President, I was saying that you could take the opportunity to tell the guests about the international convention, those who may not know what transpired and where it was held, so forth and so on.
Well, I tell you, because I am a man who believes in self-preservation, I would not presume that I have the competence to do such a thing. I would have to ask someone like Dale G. Willie, who knows all of those things like the back of his hand. But I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
They're appropriate though.
Sorry?
no, wouldn't be. No,
Right.
wouldn't be appropriate anyway.
No, well, I was thinking that maybe at it depends. Oh, well, I was thinking maybe at Kiwani said education, LG Desmond one. Well, I don't know what he has planned, but we'll get in some of it. All right. Now that we have done welcome and introductions, we are at apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies? Secretary Willie?
I have not recorded any. I have not been advised. Treasurer Orville is off the island, as we know. He's in Grand Cayman at this time.
Yes, okay. Well, okay, well, since we're all anxious to hear the benefits of the hurricane from Mr. Leroy, we will take that as is. So we're back now to PD Fearon for recognition of birthdays and anniversaries.
Thank you, President. My role at this juncture is to indicate Kiwanians who are celebrating their birthdays or their significant other having a wedding anniversary for the week of July 9th through to the 13th. Through to the 16th of July. We have 3 Kiwanians who are celebrating special occasions. First of all, we have Kiwanian Anthony Harris and his wife Leonie, who celebrate their wedding anniversary actually today, the 9th. So special wedding anniversary to Anthony and Leonie on their special day. I don't see Anthony online, so I suspect they're out celebrating. Tomorrow, the 10th, we have DP Stuart Spencer, who is on this meeting. Special birthday greetings to him. So when it comes around tomorrow, special greetings to you, DP Stu. Special greetings to you, DP. Your signal is breaking up, I think, President. Not sure. And then I have also Director Errol Hamilton on the 13th of July. That's later on this week, celebrating his birthday. So special happy birthday to those Kiwanians when they come, and special anniversary to Kiwanian Anthony and his wife as they celebrated today. That's it, President Newton. Unless there's anybody, any guest or Kiwanian who is on the meeting who is also celebrating a birthday or anniversary this week that they'd like to share with us, it's an open call. Going once, going twice. If not, thank you, everybody. Have a positive week and stay blessed. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, PD Fearon. And sorry for the interference a while ago. One of my laptops finally decided to play ball. So my thing was picking up the feedback. All right, so I'm more comfortable with this now. Okay, thank you. So we are now at Kiwani's education. Is LG Desmond on?
I don't see him.
Is LG Desmond? No?
No. I don't see LG Desmond on now.
Okay. DLG Willie.
All right. Yeah, well, let me quickly do something take something from the standard form for club bylaws. Since we had our board meeting last night, let me just remind board members who are present the responsibilities. Article 6, 1, Club Board of Directors consists of the president, immediate past president, president-elect, treasurer, secretary. In some clubs, you have a vice president. The board has the following responsibilities. Provide general management of the club, not otherwise delegated to the membership in these bylaws or club policy. Assure the club complies with applicable governmental rules and regulations. Determine the good standing status of members in accordance with club policy. Perform other duties as provided in these bylaws and club policy. Finally, regular attendance at board meetings. 6.3. A majority of the members of the entire board constitutes a quorum, and a majority vote of the board members present and voting is required for all business unless otherwise provided in these club bylaws or club policy. The board will meet regularly at a designated place and time that it determines. The board may hold special meetings at the call of the president or majority vote of the board, provided at least 48 hours previous notice is given to board members of the date, time, place, and topic. Subject to laws of local jurisdiction, the board may meet and conduct business by any method that allows all participants to simultaneously communicate with each other or as otherwise allowed by law. Participation constitutes attendance. Normal board meeting rules apply. If any votes taken verbally are unclear, they should be taken by roll call. Finally, the board may take no action in conflict with the action of the membership, other than disciplinary measures. The action of the board may be rescinded or amended by 2/3 vote of the club members present and voting, provided at least 14 days previous notice is given to the members. That's your Kiwanis education this evening, President Newton. Thank you.
Okay, DLG Willie, thank you. And I'd also like to say, recognize the presence of DP Paul Peart all the way from Japan. We're saying good evening, but I suspect it's good morning for you, sir.
Yes, President Newton. Good morning. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. All right. No, we have all been wondering. I know when we all saw the topic, we were wondering, as I said early on, apart from looters, what are the benefits to be had from a hurricane? Well, we don't have to wait much longer to hear. At this point, Kiwani and Wentworth will introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Leroy Fearon, who will let us know what are the benefits of a hurricane. So, Kiwani and Wentworth. I know I saw Wentworth on. Are you hearing me, Wentworth?
Okay, President Newton.
DP Stewart.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Okay, I saw him on 2 minutes ago, but he seemed to have been bumped.
I did see him as well. Just give me a second. Fellow Kiwanians, 1 second, let me just. Okay, fellow Kiwanians and guests.
He's on in the background.
He's on?
You say he's back on?
We're not
okay,
hearing
go ahead,
anything.
DP.
Yeah,
go ahead, DP.
Okay. Are you hearing me now?
Loud and clear.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Yeah, fellow Kiwanians and guests, this evening we have with us well, he describes himself as, well, he's obviously somebody who obviously loves geography. That much we know for sure. But let me just go through what I have for him. Leroy Fearon Jr. is a geography specialist, educator, author of 7 books, over 80 publications in total, and an avid researcher. He has presented at numerous local, regional, and international conferences covering topics such as education, culture, instructional technology, and artificial intelligence, as well as climate change. A Justice of the Peace in Jamaica, Leroy currently serves as a department head in the Faculty of Education at the Mico University College. He has previously lectured geography at Caribbean Maritime University and Sam Sharp Teachers College. He has also served as a youth parliamentarian. Maybe that was in his younger days. I don't know if they still do it now. And that's as much as I'm gonna tell you about him, because I must admit I did see something that he wrote and it sparked my interest, which is why I reached out to him, and he was able to. We're very fortunate that he was able to juggle his schedule and be with us this evening. So, Mr. Fearon, it's over to you. Thank you for being here.
DP Stewart, before you start, just a small reminder to.
Yes, thank you. I know what you mean. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, Mr. Fearon, your turn.
Good evening, everyone. Let me first acknowledge the presence of our president. I recognize we have several leaders in this room, and so I want to acknowledge the presence of all the leaders, all the executives from across all the different Kiwanis chapters across the island, those in the Caribbean, and I recognize we also have international participants. Wherever you are, good morning, good evening, good night. You are at the right place at the right time. And this evening, we're going to be talking a little bit about the benefits of hurricanes. We don't want to downplay the fact that hurricanes can be quite horrific, and we don't need a more telling reminder than a few days ago. And so whilst many people would have suffered as a result of the disaster, I want us to also know that there are some benefits. And so when I reflected on our experience, I recognized that, and I looked at social media for one, and I looked at the comments, and I recognized that, I thought, or better yet, I recognized that people didn't realize that hurricanes are actually very, very important, even for our survival, as contrary to what we may want to believe. It is very, very important. Without hurricanes, we can possibly die. And so before I jump into the benefits, I just want to share a little bit on what a hurricane is, how they are formed, and I think it is important that I interject the difference between natural hazard as well as natural disaster. Forgive me if I sound like I'm shaking. I just adjusted the temperature in here. I'm freezing, so hopefully I'll warm up a little bit. Okay, so once again, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy that I was able to just come on and share with you. So without any further delay, I am sharing right now. And just looking at hurricanes. From a satellite, this is what it will look like right here on your left. Yes, that's a satellite imagery of a hurricane. Now, hurricanes are intense low pressure circulation, as you can see here. Circulation, circular, right? That's how it would look. So it's an intense low pressure circulation that develops over tropical waters. Now, when we watch the weather report, we may not necessarily hear them talk about a hurricane, but we may have heard the term typhoon, or depending on where we are in the world, or you may hear the term tropical cyclone or cyclone, as it were. All right, so hurricanes, typhoons, cyclones, all referring to the same thing. However, the terms are used based on the origination, based on the location. So as you can see here on my second point, it says typhoons Northwest Pacific, cyclones in the South Pacific and Indian Ocean, and hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean, and the Gulf of Mexico. Now, I know this is probably not making much sense, and so I'm going to give you some visual. Right, there we go. And when we talk about hurricanes, we have to include visuals for it to be a little bit more. Yes, we can relate to its effects on land and on infrastructure, but I want us to see. So we're somewhere here. We're somewhere right here. This is the Caribbean. And so we refer to it as hurricanes. Our friends over here, beside the African continent and below the Eurasian continent, cyclones, and way over in the Eastern world, they refer to it as typhoons. All right. So I wanted to get that out there. And just to go back to the definition, low pressure circulation. Whenever we watch the weather report, I want us to pay closer attention. Whenever they say low pressure, just think lousy weather. Low pressure, bad weather. So low pressure, we're going to get intense rainfall, and the list goes on. When we talk about when the meteorologist or the forecaster speaks of high pressure ridge building up, you know it's going to get warm and we're going to have sunny skies. All right. So I hope we're on par with that. Now, I also want to differentiate between a natural hazard and a natural disaster. Hurricanes, as they are natural hazards. A hazard meaning it has the potential to cause harm. Now, when Miss Beryl or Auntie Beryl, when she makes landfall or made landfall and caused destruction, so crops were smashed, animals died, we incurred infrastructural damage, it is no longer a hazard, which means it has the potential to cause harm, but it is now a disaster. Are you with me? So if you are with me, type yes in the chat real quick. So hurricanes, by nature, they are hazards. But when they cause destruction, it's now a disaster. If you were with me, type yes in the chat real quick. I want it to be interactive. All right. If you're not clear on something, you just say, hold up. Right. So there we go. There we go. So hurricanes, low pressure circulation that develops over tropical waters. So every now and then we may ask why we get hurricanes and so on. But in short, it's because of our location. And we do. Someone's microphone is on. And so we are prone, we're susceptible, and we have the right conditions for hurricane formation. Still don't want to jump into the benefits just yet. I want you to know that you know what hurricanes are, what they are called in other jurisdictions, and the difference between a hazard and a disaster. I want us to view this short clip that explains how hurricanes are formed, because all of these things are important for preparation, all right? And remember, we cannot control them, but we can prepare and we can minimize the damages. So quickly, I'm going to share with you a short clip that shows us how hurricanes are formed, and then I jump into the benefits. Sure, okay, here we go. Almost there. Almost there. Okay, should be coming up on screen in a few seconds. Here we go. How do hurricanes form?
Hurricanes are very large and intense storms. But where do these giant storms come from? A hurricane starts with the warm water found near the equator. Hurricanes typically only form in tropical regions where the ocean is at least 80 degrees Fahrenheit. These warm waters evaporate, creating warm, moist air which acts as fuel for the storm. Wind is also needed for a hurricane to form. Many hurricanes in the United States are caused by winds blowing across the Atlantic Ocean from Africa. This wind causes even more of the warm water to evaporate into the air. The warm, moist air then rises high into the atmosphere, where it begins to cool. Way up there, the water vapor condenses back into liquid water droplets. Water droplets in the atmosphere form clouds, including big, stormy cumulonimbus clouds. As the warm air continues rising upward, the winds begin blowing in a circular pattern around a center. The spiraling winds gather up a cluster of big thunderstorm clouds. Once the spinning winds reach 74 miles per hour, the storm has officially become a hurricane. Hurricanes are huge. They can be 10 miles high and over 1,000 miles across. Once a hurricane hits land, it runs out of warm, moist air and its winds begin to weaken. But the storm can still cause lots of damage to communities near the coast. Thankfully, we have weather satellites that are constantly monitoring the conditions down here on Earth. The GOES-R series of weather satellites scan the hemisphere every 10 minutes and the US every 5 minutes, keeping an eye on conditions that might cause a hurricane to form. Once a hurricane forms, the satellites can help predict the storm's intensity and track it minute by minute. This information allows meteorologists to deliver early warnings and help people stay safe. Find out more about Earth's weather at NOAA's SciJinx.
Right, sorry about that.
Okay.
You realized I was muted. Right, so
yes,
that's that in a nutshell. That's how hurricanes are formed. Okay, so once again, remember hurricanes form over the ocean, often beginning as a tropical wave or before it develops into a storm. Now, what makes it a hurricane is really the wind speed and the energy it carries. Yes, and so once it reaches once the wind speeds are over 120 kilometers per hour, then it has upgraded from a storm to a hurricane. Good. And if we recall vividly, Beryl was moving at about 150 kilometers per hour. And then the meteorologists, they have a scale that they use. So based on the scale, they determine the category. So if it's a category 1, category 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. But we won't get into that. But based on the wind speeds of 150, then, you know, it would have been a 4 or a 5. All right, for argument's sake. And so we're going to jump into the benefits of hurricanes. Again, we're not downplaying the impacts, but hurricanes, they have their place. All right. So I'm going to be sharing again with us. This is not my original presentation, but my desktop refused to connect to the internet, so I had to improvise. So I am going to be sharing this. Okay, let's go present. Now, one of the first benefits of hurricanes is the fact that it regulates Earth's temperature. So what happens is that, as you saw that spinning aerial view of a hurricane, now that's very important because that massive steering that takes place, what it does is that, because if you recall a few weeks ago, those of us who are in Jamaica, you recognize that a few weeks ago it was extremely hot, it was unbearable. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't go outside. Like, I rarely go outside because of the temperatures. And so, and you know, it's dangerous for your skin, etc., etc. And so that told me that something was brewing, right? And not just because we're in the hurricane season, but when I looked at the sky, the way the wind felt on my skin, those little things gave me some cues. The types of clouds that were on the outside, I'm like, we are in for something. But what happens with this massive steering is that the hurricane pushes some of the heat, because we were going to have a near-death, it was a near-death experience based on the temperatures. So this massive steering pushes some of the heat energy to the polar regions. You know, the polar regions up north and down south, it's cold or it's cooler. So it pushes some of the heat in either direction, so up north, down south, and pulls, because it's a steering, and pulls some of the colder air into the Caribbean region or into the tropical region. So it's now a little bit more bearable. So it regulates the temperatures for us. So hurricanes are not, so the Mother Earth can take care of herself. So it regulates the temperature. So that's what it does. So hurricanes are important. So when we don't see hurricanes, we have to really think what's going on. And that's just one of the benefits. But let's take a look further at temperature regulation. It says heat transport. Hurricanes act as heat engines, moving warm tropical air towards the poles and helping to regulate global temperatures. So the polar region does not get too cold to the point where the organisms that belong there start to die. Or the reverse is true for the tropical region or the warm region, the equatorial region. Yes, it doesn't get too warm where we cannot handle it, right? Now, notwithstanding, in other regions, there are times when the temperatures get so high where people die. But the truth is, hurricanes regulate that temperature. Hurricanes, control that temperature gauge there naturally. Next, cooling effect. So the intense winds and rainfall associated with hurricanes can also have a cooling effect on local and regional temperatures. And I mean, this is evident. A few days ago, we recognized where many of us, well, we never had electricity, but in the first part, when we still had power, many of us could turn our fans off, turn the ACs off because the external temperatures weren't so high, and so the concrete never absorbed too much energy or too much heat. So it wasn't so bad on the inside, all right? So another element of temperature regulation is climate stabilization, which is really what's happening in terms of temperature regulation. So by distributing heat more evenly, hurricanes play a key role in stabilizing the Earth's climate and preventing extreme temperature fluctuations. And so it doesn't get too warm, as I said, for us in the Caribbean, and it doesn't get too cold for those in the polar regions. So they do get warm air up there. It's just that they may not feel warmth, especially in the extreme polar regions. They may not feel warmth, but the temperature is regulated in such a way where it is bearable for the most part. Because it's not just about bearable for humans, but even the tiniest or even the smallest of organisms. Now, another benefit of hurricanes, yes, we know that our drums around our property there becomes filled, etc. But it's way more to it than that. Now, rainfall and groundwater replenishment takes place. How many of us have driven over bridges, etc., and there's literally no water? Because usually in summer, when we have lower rainfall, most of our streams, they run underground. Our longest river, Rio Mino, runs underground in many parts of Jamaica. And so precipitation, which is just another fancy word for rainfall, or it is also the family name for rainfall, snow, slate, hail, all of those things. So when you see precipitation, it's referring to one off, all right? So precipitation or rainfall levels. So hurricanes bring intense rainfall, as we know, but it helps to replenish water supplies or water storage areas. So our rivers become replenished, or aquifers, those large rocks under the earth or stuck in different places, cliff faces and so on, they get water, they are recharged, and it alleviates drought conditions. So hurricanes are important, right? Also, groundwater recharge. So the heavy downpour associated with hurricanes allow water to soak deep into the soil, refilling underground aquifers and groundwater reserves. So you're a farmer, when you plant and you say, oh, time dry, the plants, the root system knows that there's water down there. And so I don't know how many of us do gardening, and so sometimes we uproot some of the wild grasses with our hands, and we see some long fibrous root system, and we're like, okay, because it's growing to reach the water down there. And sometimes it's so, whenever we see plants die and so on, it's usually a case where especially not potted plants now, but regular plants or crops, they die because they can't reach, especially during the drier periods, they can't reach the water reserves. And so hurricanes come and jazz it up, spruce it up, give us a little water, especially if you don't have irrigation systems. Yeah. Also, there are agricultural benefits. And you're like, really, sir? After all my crops were flattened? No, the additional rainfall provided by hurricanes can be vital for farming and agriculture, also improving crop yields and sustaining vital food production. So later on in the presentation, you recognize that the hurricane actually replenishes the nutrients as well. And so after a hurricane, it's easier for it is somewhat easier for there to be a bounce back, as it were, because the soil is now richer, and so crops will flourish. The ecosystem, the coastal areas benefit a lot from hurricanes. Yes, coral reefs, corals are destroyed, marine fish are displaced, they have to find a new habitat, etc. But there are also some benefits. So coastal ecosystem maintenance, one, barrier islands. Hurricanes help maintain the dynamic barrier islands that protect many coastal regions from erosion and storm surges. When we get hurricanes, the coast literally become a little bit more resilient. Just like when you get a cut and your skin repairs itself, the coastal area is forced to repair itself, considering that the action of man, for example, when we're making the hoteliers are making their own hotels and so on, and they damage the beach. After the passage of a hurricane, it is forced to repair itself. Wetlands. When we talk about the wetlands, these swamps and so on, very, very important. They tend to have a lot of nutrient-rich sediment. And so with the hurricane, our wetlands have more water. Again, the stirring don't just take place in the atmosphere, but it takes place in the riverbeds and on the floors of these wetlands. And so there's a mixing taking place, and we have more nutrients. Remember now, materials are being transported that is. So rivers are now flowing, all kinds of things are happening. And so the soil is now more nutrient rich. The wetland itself is more nutrient rich. There are more organisms there because, you know, some organisms have to migrate whenever it gets too dry, etc. So it's more nutrient rich. The sediment deposited by hurricanes is essential for the health and growth of coastal wetlands. Again, coral reef rejuvenation. Coral reefs tend to be destroyed during hurricanes because they break, and once they break, they die for the most part. With hurricanes, more water is in the ocean, because what is happening now, many of the corals are exposed because we have less water. Many times the oceans recede, and so the corals are now exposed to sunlight. Listen to this. Corals need sunlight in order to grow, but too much sunlight or overexposure will cause coral bleaching. Now, most of the marine fish, 25% of all marine fish live in coral reefs. Now, if the corals die, then no fish. Just imagine when you go to the hotel or when you're tired of eating chicken or whatever else, the fish population will decline. So there's a ripple effect. But with the passage of a hurricane, there's more water, so the corals have much more coverage from the sun. So it's almost like they're getting sunscreen there because there's more water, they're not so close to the surface, they are not so overly exposed. So hurricanes can help clear away algae as well. That's the buildup, like excess plants and overgrowth then, so to speak, for the corals that will somehow drown it sometimes, even though corals feed on tiny algae. But there are times when the algae population, just like when you have an area at home that is constantly being wetted. So the roof, you have a catchment, and wherever the water falls on the ground becomes green, and there's some kind of growth taking place there. That happens in the ocean as well. and when the overgrowth takes place, it blocks the sunlight from the corals, and then the corals die. No corals, no fish. So there's a ripple effect, and the food chain gets distorted, and again, it's a ripple effect. So coral rejuvenation takes place with hurricanes. Nutrient cycling that I alluded to. So one, there's nutrient upwelling. So hurricanes mix the ocean layers, bringing nutrient-rich deep water to the surface, which supports the growth of phytoplankton, which is really the tiny algae that corals feed on, and then other organisms feed on the corals. So nutrient upwelling. So the ocean is happy when hurricanes occur. It is sad, but it is also happy. Then we have carbon sequestration, which we will talk about a little later on. But this is when there's more carbon dioxide available for the oceans to absorb. So the increased biological productivity fueled by hurricane-driven nutrient upwelling allows the oceans to absorb more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, because the ocean needs it, and it expels oxygen, right? Also, ecosystem balance. By regulating nutrient cycles, hurricanes help maintain the delicate balance of marine ecosystems, ensuring the continued health and productivity of our oceans. So really and truly, hurricanes cleanse the ocean, cleanse the oceans. And so it makes even our interactions with the environment more fruitful. Think about times when we dump in the sea. When we dump. So the hotels, they dump, we carry our stuff and we dump, or when we dump in the drainages and in the rivers, and they're washed to sea, because the rivers, they actually go to sea. Yes, so hurricanes actually cleanse, just like we would take when we take our meds to flush our systems. It's the same thing. So it purges the ocean. So in a few days, should you go down to the 7 Mile beach, it is beautiful, because after a while it will be cleansed. Oops, let me go back a little bit. Reduced wildfire risk. Now, wildfire is a thing, especially in summer, because hurricanes come in summer. Or predominantly, because the hurricane period runs right through summer, starting from June. But anyways, reduced wildfire risk. We always have fire issue, but when there's hurricane, with water, you can't have fire. So moisture replenishment. The heavy rainfall brought by hurricanes can help reduce the risk of devastating wildfires by replenishing moisture levels in vegetation and soils. The reason why many of our wildfires take root or cause so much damage, acres of land gets damaged, or acres of crops, acres of forest go down, is because the forest floor tends to be very dry. But with hurricane, and you might say, forest floor can be dry. Yes, it can be dry, even though, because not all the time there's a lot of moisture. And so, because it all depends where. It all depends where. So it's not always filled with a lot of moisture. So with a hurricane, there's going to be moisture, and with moisture, and just think about wet soil. Can't really have fire on wet soil. It's not going to prosper. It's not going to work. All right, it's not viable. And then we have vegetation cleansing. So hurricanes can also help clear away dead and dry vegetation, because it's usually the litter, we call it plant litter, that really fuels forest fires or wildfires for that matter. Good plant litter. So those dry leaves and so on. Once fire touches those, we have a problem. So hurricanes can also help clear away dead and dry vegetation, reducing the fuel load, as I alluded to, that can contribute to the spread of wildfires. Now, hurricanes generally boost ecosystem resilience, because nature is now forced to come up with a plan, is now forced to go into protection mode. And so it pulls out all the stops. Everything starts working in tandem with each other. So by aiding in the recovery and rejuvenation of ecosystems, hurricanes can increase their resilience, as in resilience of the ecosystems, that's what I'm referring to, and to protect and to guard against future fire events or wildfires in this particular context. Atmospheric pressure balancing. This is similar to, you know, the balancing of temperature earlier on that I mentioned, but pressure regulation. Hurricanes require a particular air pressure, but I won't get into the science of that. But it requires a particular air pressure. Hurricanes help regulate atmospheric pressure by transporting excess heat and moisture from the tropics towards the poles, as I said. And there's a balancing act. So it helps to maintain the delicate balance of pressure systems that drive global weather patterns and climate. So we might be experiencing, or we might have experienced a hurricane in the tropics. So the Caribbean experienced burial, and we thought, okay, it just came and attacked the Caribbean, and we faced the devastation, we faced the losses, but the global weather system benefited from that one hurricane. The global weather system would have benefited. And so, yes, there's devastation, but we also have to be happy that the summer is not going to be too hot for us. Because there are times when, and not just too hot for us, but we have to think about the fact that the extra UV rays and so on, many persons don't know that they can have sun poisoning. Sun poisoning is a thing. We talk about food poisoning, sun poisoning is a thing. There's a point beyond sunburn that is called sun poisoning. So once you've gone beyond sunburn, you can be poisoned. Yes, so this helps to reduce that likelihood. Or hurricanes help to reduce that likelihood. Also, when we do have hurricanes, it improves the forecasting. And that is why I kind of don't like when we turn the attention to the weather channels only during the hurricane season, because they're always reporting. It's just that we're not paying attention. We only care whenever there's a hurricane coming, and I can't really blame us. But the weather report is something that I pay keen attention to. It influences how we dress. It influences daily life. Sometimes you don't even know that you're supposed to walk with an umbrella, something as simple as that. But I want us as a people to get into the habit of checking the weather. Yes, we have weather apps on our devices, but I want us to get into the habit of checking the weather. Many of us are traveling and we're not checking the weather. So let's get into that habit. Now, improved forecasting. Understanding the role of hurricanes in atmospheric pressure dynamics also aids in improving weather forecasting, climate modeling. The scientists benefit a lot from hurricanes because now they can make better predictions. Now they know what to expect. So we know what to expect from a category 5 only because there would have been a category 5 in the past. So it improves the forecasting. So the benefit is not just environmental, it is also social, it's educational, it's very, very important. And so though we may look at hurricanes as doom and gloom, which it is for the most part, there are some benefits. It keeps us alive. The main one, regulating the temperature, is very, very important. If we go a year without having hurricanes, just know we're going to have a lot of earthquakes, because the natural disaster or hazards are all related in some respects. They are all related. Once we have earthquakes can trigger volcanic eruptions. Volcanic eruptions can trigger earthquakes. They are all related. Hurricanes can trigger flooding. They're all related. They are all related. And so we have to, yes, we have to guard against, yes, they're bad, but they also have very good benefits socially, economically, all kinds. And I say economically, sir, yeah, man. Sometimes that's the only way we'll get help as a country. We see numerous donations coming in, and which we would not have gotten under normal circumstances. Hello. So tropical storm forecasting improvements, so improved tracking, intensity prediction. Yes, as I alluded to earlier. So now we know what comes with a category 5. Now we know what comes with a category 4. And having had one so early in the season suggests that there can be more. Now, let me backtrack a little bit. I remember persons were talking about the size of Hurricane Beryl. Now, please note that the diameter of a hurricane can extend as far as 800 to 1,000 kilometers. That's huge. That means Jamaica is can be like a little, just drop a coin, when you drop a coin in a bucket of water or in a container of water. It could be like that. So it is very, very dangerous, but at the same time, there are benefits to be had. I'm thinking too, it's not on this presentation, but I'm thinking that Wigton Wind Farm, this is Kiwanis, perhaps there's a member of Wigton here, I don't know, but I believe Wigton Wind Farm could have benefited greatly from the hurricane because of the intensity of wind. They could harness all of that. The Jamaica JPS could have benefited from that too, because they have hydroelectric power stations, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly. And so they could harness all of that to power communities. So there are several benefits to be had from the passing, or from a hurricane, I should say. Hurricanes are very, 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 very important. And the benefits, trust me, you may think the benefits outweigh, sorry, the disadvantages outweigh the benefits, but I would want to see it as 50-50. You may not agree with me today, but I think it is 50-50 because the wind energy, I believe Wigton perhaps have harnessed a lot. And where the wind farms are in Jamaica, well, I know Wigton, there's another one, don't remember right now, but Wigton, where it's positioned, was very, very strategic. And I think the winds coming off the coast onto the area in Malvern there about, they could have harnessed a lot of energy. And so I'll stop here for this evening because I have another engagement. But the truth is, I want us to understand that hurricanes have their place. We get them on a regular basis, and we may think it's just here to destroy us, but hurricanes actually save us. Without hurricanes, it's a possibility that the death rate can increase exponentially, that is. And the last few months we've had were extremely hot. Maybe many of us can witness to that. Very, very hot. And so the hurricane came and kind of cooled things down a bit. It regulated the temperature. It's not as hot as it was a few weeks ago, or even a few days prior to. Even the day prior to Hurricane Beryl was extremely hot. Was extremely hot, and that heat fuels the hurricane. So it's the entire earth is working there's a symbiotic relationship with all the elements of earth. Yes, there's a symbiotic relationship. The atmosphere is working with the geosphere, which is the earth layer. There's a symbiotic relationship. The biosphere, the sphere of living things, it's working in tandem with the geosphere and the atmosphere. It's all working together. Now, what we can do as a people is to begin to study the benefits of hurricanes and see how we can benefit from them as developing states. We explore different ways of advancement or advancing in technology and how we can use it in healthcare and whatever. We need to find out how we can use or how we can harness the power of these natural hazards to our benefit. Yes, and so I want to leave you on that note, or I want to end this presentation on the note that hurricanes, they do have their benefits. And so I believe I'm going to open the floor for questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fearon. The floor is gonna be open. The floor is open, but I'm gonna ask you one question just to kind of kick things off.
Sure.
We have talked about global warming,
Right.
And it would seem to me that what you're saying, just like how, in fact, when you're speaking, I mean, we know that to a large extent, the body heals itself. And from what I'm hearing from you, you're actually saying that the earth, in a way, kind of heals itself. Yes. Because by some of these hazards. But so if we're talking about global warming, then to what extent do these phenomenon correct for that? I mean, in a sense, you are saying that it redistributes temperature, so we don't get as hot in our area, and the cold regions don't get as cold. So why doesn't it take care of the global warming? That's my question. Or is it? To what extent?
It is helping with global warming, but remember, but that's a good question, actually. It is taking care of global warming, but it can do so much and no more, because how many hurricanes do we get? Or better yet, though they form, they tend to not last very long. And however, or better yet, they don't last very long compared to the rate of the warming. And this is due to, of course, the ozone layer being depleted. And so it is a direct incoming solar radiation that we need to kind of stop. But how can we do that? We definitely have to get to the place where we limit our carbon, emission. We have to, electric vehicle sounds, far-fetched, or persons are not warming up to the idea, but the fuel, even the very perfume we use or the colognes that we use, that's contributing to global warming. We don't talk about it enough, but yes, the chlorofluorocarbons, they're detrimental to the ozone layer. The fuel from our ships, from our factories, we will have to limit those so that the depletion of the ozone, the rate of depletion of the ozone layer can be minimized or reduced significantly, so that when the redistribution takes place, it's not almost a waste, for lack of a better word. But the hurricanes are actually working to do that. But how many hurricanes can we take for us to have that proper cooling? So what we perhaps, so the way in which we can tackle this issue is to reduce emissions and use more renewable sources of energy. Stop burning fossil fuels. More renewable sources of energy. So utilize the wind, utilize the solar power. I think that's how we utilize geothermal power as well, because we have places in Jamaica with where we have mineral springs. Then it means that there's some volcanic activity in close proximity, which means we can generate heat from that area. So that's how we would tackle that issue. But hurricanes are actually helping us to fight global warming. They really are helping us, but the hurricanes alone can't do it. We have a part to play. If we weren't depleting the ozone layer at such rapid rate, then the hurricane could take care of it in and of itself.
Okay, thank you on that. I think you have covered it quite well. Any questions from the floor? I'm just looking in the chat to see if there are anything specific. I just want to throw, I see a hand up. James McNish. Okay, go ahead, James. James, your hand is up.
Yes, I'm
okay.
here.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Presenter, I would say it's a good presentation, and I've listened to you. You outlined very early in your presentation, say there should be a concern where there's an absence of hurricane or storm for a period of time, because there are benefits. You outlined that there are benefits, significant benefits to accrue to our country, our countries, such as heat regulation and ecosystem resilience and wind energy. However, Mr. Presenter, I was about to say, Mr. Speaker, we have been socialized and educated that hurricanes are negative, bad, and cause destruction. So my question is, listening to you. Do you have any empirical data? Because you have empirical data in respect to if hurricane should come to Jamaica, it would cost the country 4% of the GDP. So I'm going to ask you this question. Do you have any empirical data to confirm that the benefits outweigh the costs, such as, I think when Hurricane Ivan came here, it was 4% of the GDP. I don't know how much this one will be. So I said I want to ask you within that context. That is the first question. And the next question is, do you think, I'm talking from the policy makers now and the cabinet members, do you think they should take into account some of your views and ideas into their planning? Over to you, to Mr. Presenter.
Good question. Whilst I don't have any empirical data or statistics in terms of the extent of damage, well, I know it's published and it's all over, but the truth is, by now, and this is just my personal perspective now, by now, as a nation, we should be at the place, considering our location, etc., and our vulnerability to hurricanes. We should have been at the place now where we are so ready. I know you can't be too ready, but for any natural disaster, once we are prepared, then the losses will be significantly reduced. And so if we had gotten to the place where we put things in place, for example, instituting, yes, I know the National Land Agency and so on, they have their building codes, etc. But if we legislate that, listen, your property must be built with this amount of steel, for argument's sake, or with this amount of cement and so on, you must have your hurricane shutters in place, and some other little things that the engineers, I guess, can think of, then I think that bill that we have remaining after the passage of any hurricane would be significantly reduced. And it's just about how we plan. It's the poor planning that has, and I know it costs money to plan, but it's the poor planning that we continue to perpetuate year after year, decade after decade, that results in the damages. Also, our buildings, we rarely, and I'm not just looking at their infrastructure, but the earth or the environment as a whole, we do very little upkeep. We barely clean our drainages, only when it's perhaps Christmas coming up, and depends on the location, that is too. So the losses, some of the losses that we incur, they are basically self-inflicted losses, really and truly, because we are really not prepared for these disasters. We know it's hurricane season. We have the scientists all over the island. There should be somewhere, I know the government plans, don't get me wrong, the government plans, but I think when it comes to natural disasters on a whole, anything geographical for that matter, I think the attention is limited, because that should be on the top of our budget. Our climatological response should be a part of our budget. And let me see if I can remember the other part of the question now.
I would ask about the GDP, if there's any scientific data in respect to the benefits.
It exists, but I don't remember off the top of my head right now. So.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Wentworth, your hand is up. Go ahead, Wentworth.
I must first apologize, but it's beyond my control when I was to do my part, Sir Stuart.
Okay.
Something just went bad or just went awry, what have you.
Right.
I have a two question, but based on what the professor is here saying, it's like he's trying to spoke in our thinking to rethink how we view these natural disasters. And I must say I am somewhat, appreciative of the fact that the the hurricane would have brought about so much ecological advantages that in our fears of things, it seems as if everything is just being negative. But I realize that with the effect of the wind and the rain, based on how we plan, it would have cost us more economics than benefits, because apparently the hurricane, based on what the professor is now teaching us, is that the hurricane is here for the upliftment and the preservation of land and its environment. But we are seeing it in a different light. My real question is the term climate change, how does it affect or comes under these perception as something negative when the hurricane is doing so much positive to the ecology?
All right. Thanks for that. But climate change is a broader concept. The hurricanes, or the frequency of hurricanes, is as a result of climate change. Climate change as a broader construct is really the long-term shifts. So in other words, our climate has changed from what it used to be. That's really what climate change is saying. So in the past, Jamaica wasn't so hot, but now we're seeing where it's extremely hot. That's climate change. So climate change refers to the long-term shifts and alterations. Sorry?
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. Long-term shifts and alterations in temperature and overall weather patterns. And the truth is, by definition, the books will tell you, the weather centers and so on will tell you that it is primarily caused by human activities. So hurricanes fall into the broader construct of climate change, or the frequency of it, yes, but it's primarily caused by human activities, burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, industrial processes, the high concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and all of these things, the excess of carbon dioxide and so on, all of these things. And so it goes back to the economic losses that we face on the normal. Well, if we were prepared, then the economic losses would have been significantly reduced. Strengthening building codes is a must. We have to enforce stricter building codes. Also, poor urban planning is a major part of the losses we face, because there's no green infrastructure. We have these what we call urban heat islands. So we have these developed cities, but very little greenery. We see where we put up a little palm tree and so on, but that's not enough. Yes, all of these things are causing us to experience more adverse effects than what we should be experiencing, and it's quite common among developing countries.
So my understanding is, so we are our own victim of climate change then.
It's harsh, but that's the reality.
So we can blame it on God then, since we say it's a act of God.
No, and that's the thing. The whole the original intention of hurricanes was to help us.
No, I'm not calling it as it is,
Yes.
I'm just calling it as it is, because people tend to think that these things are act of God when it is actually our. Because since it's a climate change, it's a long-term effect on over change over a longer period of time. It's based on actually human action and lifestyle and these things. So, I mean, it's sad to know that somebody's going to say they're going to ban plastic bags. Not getting into the politics of it now, because it's an effect of climate change when we were actually the one using, producing, and throwing the plastics in the wrong places.
Yes, and may I just interject, as you said, something came to mind and I had to write it down. Even where we construct some of these buildings or homes, domestic properties and residential properties and so on, the truth is many of the places where I see buildings, no building should have been there in the first place. Persons who like land surveyors and so on, they know the truth, but they perhaps won't say anything because I mean it's not their business really. But the truth is, even where we have some of these homes and so on constructed, recipe for disaster. I saw a police station, for argument's sake, that was flooded, I think somewhere in St. Catherine, like they're unable to access the building. Funny enough, I drove past that building the other day and I didn't even know it was a police station because I never saw any sign or whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is when I looked at the building, I was just driving past. And when I looked at the building, I'm like, why is it built into a depression? And just looking at the soil itself, I don't know if it's because of the geographical eyes, but when I looked over there, I'm like, but this soil, not even too ready for construction. Sometimes the soil or the area is not ready for construction, it's not ready for a building. Sometimes it's loose dirt and we just dump it up and so on. So all these things were causing it. So when it rains, the water just take back its place, as it were, as we love to say, because many times we excavate the wetlands thinking that there's no water there, but water is underground. So when it rains, the water table rises and the water just come back up and you try to figure out, but I bought this land for 25 million and these things happen because we just see an opportunity, we see an investment opportunity and we say, okay, I'm gonna drop a place here. I remember a few years ago when there was a section of Portmore, I believe, where persons, like they had 5 flights of stairs to go into their homes and they woke up to 3 and I think there was some sinking activity. Don't quote me, but that's what I remembered vaguely. And it's because of, poor identification of land area for construction. So some of the things that we have, some of we really would have caused some of these things.
Okay, thank you, Wentworth.
Right, sorry, yeah.
Good. There was a question in the chat, but I think Mr. Fearon, I think you have actually addressed it. I'll just read what it says. It says, with the benefits stated in your presentation, what measures then can be taken to mitigate the destructive impact of hurricanes? But I think you spoke to that in terms of the whole thing about the building codes. In fact, you didn't mention it tonight, but something that you had actually written had also to do with where you build. In other words, people, there don't seem to be a lot of restrictions on building in coastal areas. I guess because people want to be near to the sea. But, that could also have mitigated against the destruction that will follow. And, I remember in Gilbert, it was, most of us, Gilbert was the first hurricane that we experienced that we could remember. I mean, really, that really walked over the island. I mean, there have been a lot of others that did damage, but I mean, really walked over the island. And one thing that struck me, I remember, was that roofs, a lot of roofs went. And these were roofs not in just depressed areas, but in upper St. Andrew, And one of the explanations was, or rather the main explanation was, that over the years, because we hadn't had any hurricanes for a while, people kept flattening their roofs and forgetting that the best design of a roof for to withstand a hurricane was the kind of shape that you would have when you have a shingle roof, with that kind of a peak. But I kept flattening roofs because it was, you use less material if you reduce the apex of your roof. And those were the roofs that went. And I remember driving through an area like Richmond Park after the hurricane, when in Gilbert's time, and a lot of the older houses that had the roofs designed how old-time people used to design roofs, and those houses were fine. So I think it's a perfect example of us not, well, I don't think the building code was telling you how to how to build the roof. They're more talking about structural aspects of it. But those best practices were forgotten. And I think that this time around, there has been some improvement. But, you know, you're quite right that what we do has a lot to do with the damage that we suffer. And we can do better. So, you know, I'm really thankful for your presentation. I don't see any more hands up, but we'll allow one more if there's somebody who has a pressing question that they would like to throw in. You said something about earthquakes. Let me just throw this at you. I thought that earthquakes, was that somebody wanted to come in with a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to
Stefan. Okay, go ahead, Stefan.
Yeah. I just wanted to, it's really a question. I just want to say like for the government like of Jamaica, like with GPS and like especially light posts, light current and all that. Because I know like during this period some people still do have light and all that. Like in Canada, we run our current, we're on our light underground, right? But in Jamaica, they do it for the light post. So I was wondering if they couldn't engineer it away. Maybe it's kind of expensive to run it underground, but like in a certain way that even if a hurricane hits, the light post won't drop. It will still stand. And more for safety, more like they turn off the current. But when it's passed over, they can lock it back on, making sure the wires are connected and everything is okay. So, and also another thing too, the drainage system is very poor because people litter and garbage and the gullies and all that, so it causes a lot of flooding. And even the chemicals, the soap, all kind of stuff underwater in the gully and people walking it and it causes all kind of disease and stuff like that, you know. So I think people on the whole should play environmental safety and not throwing stuff in these drainage and stuff like that. And even the government should really go and make the clear all drainage systems, so even if a hurricane come again, we can handle it.
Yeah. Thanks for those comments, Stefan. I agree with you, and I'd like to say that you know, we don't want to beat up on people who have been disadvantaged by the hurricane, but we just have to say there's a middle ground where we have to recognize that yes, we could have done more. You know, there's the hurricane straps and all of those kind of things. We could do more, as well as there are some people who just got the bad end of the stick. But what I want to just lastly just throw in before we wrap about the earthquakes, it struck me you did say that these are interconnected, and it struck me that if we have a lot of tremors, let's say not a lot, but I mean frequent tremors that are not gigantic, isn't that better than having one big one? So I'm saying, is that kind of how you look at earthquakes, that it's better to have small tremors, and they if we didn't have any at all, that would mean that pressure is building up somewhere, and then when those plates have to move, maybe it will be more devastating. Does that make sense?
It does, because what happens, for example, at Spur 3, right across, there are fault lines right across the island. And by fault lines, I mean, these are some huge cracks in the earth that are there, right? They weren't engineered by man, really. And so, because though along those areas are susceptible to earthquakes, what the scientists do, periodically they go to these areas and they pump water into those cracks or faults. When that happens, it triggers minor quakes or small quakes. And so it prevents larger ones. Similarly now, hurricanes, particularly those that generate large waves, so a category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, a category 5. They can trigger, when it passes, it can actually, the large ocean waves will disturb the ocean floor, and so it can trigger seismic activity, and that is how storm quakes occur. And of course, you have underwater earthquakes that happens, and then it triggers those on land. So there's a ripple effect and it's interconnected. Also, and let me just drop this in quickly because we're out of time. But let's say, yes, we know hurricane is coming. Yes, the weather has changed and so on, but the earth is still hot. But when the sudden downpour can also trigger earthquakes. So they're all interconnected. They're all interconnected in some ways.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to you, President Newton.
Thank you, DP Stewart. I must say a big thank you to our guest speaker, Mr. Leroy Fearon Jr., for bringing to us that hurricanes plus some amount of tough love.
I know the president was about to introduce, I don't know if he has frozen, but if he has frozen, may I just ask DP Dalma James to move the vote of thanks. Go ahead, DP Dalma.
Thank you, Substitute President.
Are you hearing me?
No, we're hearing you. But I thought you had frozen, so I just introduced.
No, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, that's what happened, and now it has come back up.
Okay. Okay.
So,
well, Dalma was about to do the thank you.
Okay, please go ahead, DP Dalma, because I have two instruments on and having feedback. So please go ahead, DP Dalma.
Okay. President Fearon, boy, it's my pleasure on behalf of the president, members, and guests of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston to thank you for your wonderful presentation. You know, we have always been looking at hurricanes as hazards and disaster. And when you started out, I was saying this gentleman says he's going to talk about benefits. And he's reinforcing the fact that these things are hazards and disaster. But as you went along, we then realized all the benefits of a hurricane: dispersing heat, recharging aquifers, stabilizing the climate, cleansing the ocean. These are all things which, when you say it to us, it seems like common sense, but really, we have not been seeing hurricanes as such. I now begin to think that a hurricane is just a phenomena. And whether it is going to be a disaster or a hazard, it has more to do with how we react to it. And I'm quite sure that's what the most of us on this platform is now thinking of hurricanes. So in future, when I hear a hurricane is coming, I'll begin to think of a lot of these benefits, you know, balancing the pressure. And I mean, there are so many good things that is happening that I think we should now be happy that we are in a hurricane zone. And as such, we really thank you for taking the time out to come and address us this evening. I'm quite sure that you can find some little space on your wall to put a thank you plaque, which I'll definitely make sure that I have presented to you to show our appreciation of the presentation that you have made today. Thank you for taking time out to be here. We really appreciate it. And again, just to finish, I must say, on behalf of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, thank you, Professor Fearon. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure sharing in this endeavor. Appreciate it.
Oh,
you're welcome.
Yes, sir. We also appreciate it. All right, thank you, DP Dalma. And so, well, I'm gonna ask a member of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston move for complete.
Move forward, President.
Sorry?
Move forward.
Move for an extension of 10 minutes.
Okay. It seems like, okay, President, I will move. Seems like standard procedure.
Thank you. PDT Ralston. Can I have a seconder?
A second.
Okay, seconded by DP Short. Yes, yes, PDT Ralston. I know sometimes we get over, but we'll get back on track. At this time, we're gonna ask. We're gonna invite the Sarge, Director Zuri, to take over.
Good evening, my Kiwanian family. So this evening, I'm going to be sharing with you about Rastaman in St. Elizabeth. So, he did his farming and he also sold brooms. But the people in the community were a nuisance. When they don't tease him about his broom selling, they were stealing things from his farm. So he decided that he's going to look to Jah to take care of them. So hurricane was coming and he said, well, just send the hurricane to deal with these people because they won't stop bothering. So he's watching them scouring away. He watched roofs go and he see people running for cover. And he say, yes, Dad, deal with them for me. And then his roof went. And then go, boy, Jah, it look like if it gets here, the iron I live here. Now for the charges. So for DP Dalma James, DP Stewart Spencer, PDT Ralston Nunes for the featherless bird racial date, $300 each. Kiwanian Wentworth Prendergast, you are part of that, but we're not going to charge you in that way, but we're going to charge you for your festaless birds. Don't know which birds are festaless, but $300 for your festaless birds. Dear G. William Reeson for your breaking news of VGD Hope Marks election as vice governor instead of vice president, another $300 there. The entire directorship for your majority absence from the meeting, because it's one band, one sound. So any director that was present, you will also have to pay $300 because the majority of the directors were not at the meeting last night. And we come to DP Jr. for placing DP Paul in China as opposed to Japan, $300. But we have another charge for you. For your 2 yards in 7 minutes within the start of the board meeting, then it moved to 3 yards within 9 minutes of the board meeting. And then you had 7 yards over 9 minutes, giving you a total of 10 yards in the meeting. I'm going to charge you $100 per yarn. So that's $1,000. So your total charge is $1,300. Have a good evening, everyone.
I tell you, that's why we have a Sarge for life. Thank you, Sarge.
Yeah, I think the yarn really deserve a fine, truly.
All right. So at this point, we're going to ask DLG Willie to bring us through notices and announcements and interclubbing opportunities. DLG Willie.
Thank you, President Newton. Regarding notices, by now, all our members should be aware of our benefit performance in National Dance Theatre Company in the 62nd season of dance on Saturday, July 27th at the Little Theatre at 8 p.m. The cost of the ticket is $3,000. We have also invited other clubs to participate in our evening of music and dance. And we look forward to a very interesting meeting. In fact, on Thursday, the president myself will be attending a little preview of what we can expect. So that's it. That is the National Dance Theatre benefit performance, Saturday, July 27th. For tickets, you can approach me or you can approach President Newton. President Newton, in terms of interclubbing opportunities, as usual, I will circulate the interclub schedule in following tomorrow morning. At this time, I would make announcements on behalf and those who want to cover West Centennial have upcoming Fed, and New Kingston has their annual fish fry. And I know Bridget is here, Secretary Bridget, and I know Robert, Vice President Robert is here for West Intender to tell us more about those two events. Thank you, President, for inviting me to do it now.
Okay, DLG, Willie, and at this point, I invite other members of the Kiwanis movement. Just open your microphone and inform us of your upcoming events.
President Newton.
Yes, yes, PDT Ralston.
As of midday today, only one person of the Kiwanis Club, Kingston, was registered for the CLE trading on Saturday. Where 5 persons are required to attend. So I want to remind us of that trading that takes place on Saturday at the Betting, Gaming and Lottery Commission office. And I encourage those who are supposed to be a part of that training, which is designed to prepare us for the incoming year, to register, and that's it.
Thank you, PDT Ralston. We did discuss with the individuals last night the importance of attending. And I'm glad you have brought that to my attention so that we can do the follow through to make sure that at least those crucial 5 are at that meeting. Thank you. Any other announcements? Past President Robert. All right, DP Judith.
Yes, sir.
It's all yours.
Boy, I was just about to raise my hand to do it the decent way, but I said,
no, man, you're royal. Man, you don't have to raise hand. Once you nod, we step aside.
Once I open my microphone. Okay, so I have 2
Exactly.
announcements. Good evening, fellow Kiwanians. Good evening, President. Fellow Kiwanians. The Kiwanis Club of South St. Andrew. We have our meeting tomorrow evening, or monthly or bi-monthly meeting tomorrow evening at 6:30 p.m. online. And the topic is Jamaicans having fewer children. Current trends will lead to population decline. And we have a lady speaking to us. Our speaker will be Pauline Russell Brown. And she will speak to us on the topic. And I don't know if they want us to turn to China. Because at one point we heard that 2 was better than too many. Now, Jamaicans having fewer children. So we'll listen to her speak tomorrow evening at the Kiwanis Club of South St. Andrew. Now, the Kiwanis Club of 23 East Professional St. Andrew online. We have our signature project coming up on the 20th of July, which is 2 Saturdays from today, from 2 Saturdays away. And that signature project is our health fair, Our Children, Our Priority Health Fair. It's a free health fair, and all children parents are encouraged to bring out their children to get their checks done, their back to school checks done, so that they can be ready for school with their forms and all of that. Adults are also encouraged to come get your blood pressure checks, get your dental checks, get your tests, all the works, the whole works. So we invite you. It's the 20th at the National Water Commission Co-op Credit Union Basic School on Old Hope Road. We start at 9 a.m. and we go to about 3 o'clock when the last patient is seen. And we hope to have the support of as many of our Kiwanian doctors who have opted to give service hours to our project. So looking forward to your support, and thank you all for this opportunity.
Thank you, DP Judith. Just one question. Where is an NWC basic school? We are on Hope.
Okay, it's going up to, it's on Old Hope Road going up to Pepin, just before we get to that last turning that takes you down to Mind. It's between Hope Gardens and that turning to go to Mind. It's there on the left-hand side, right at the roadside. You may pass it, and it's so you pass it, but don't realize it's a basic school over there. But it's really very give out good results, and we have our K-Kids over there, and we work very closely with that school, doing very well.
And you're so correct. You're so correct. I know exactly where it is because I've passed it and wonder which school is that too. So I know exactly.
National Water Commission Co-op Credit Union Basic School.
Okay, I know where it is.
Yes,
yes. And let's support your meeting tomorrow and your health fair 2 weeks. Saturday.
And I would just like you to know that some of your own Kingston Club doctors will be on board, have signed up to be on board with us. Thank you.
That's because we're nice people. We collaborate.
I know that the doctors who sign up nice. But I'll not go any further. I know the doctors who have signed up are very nice gentlemen. I'll not go any further.
I think it's at this.
Right, Dr. Andrew, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
See that? Oy. Get jealous now.
I think
jealous now, President.
I think it's at this point that I should ask if there's any other announcements.
That's correct, President Newton.
I should know when to quit. Any other announcements?
Through you, President Newton. Good evening. This is Bridget.
Good evening.
Secretary Bridget from KCNK. And just to give you some additional information, the LG Willie was telling you about our Seafood Friday, which is going to be on July 19th at the Police Officers Club. Pickup times are between 11 and 4 p.m. And once it hits 4 p.m., that's when the lines start. The food, we're going to have fried fish with festival and bami, steamed fish with bami and veg, curried shrimp with white rice and veg, and all of those are $3,000 each. And of course, if lobster is your fancy, we will have garlic butter lobster with festival for $4,000.
Okay, thank you, Secretary. It sounds tempting already. Do we have any other announcements?
No, I have a question for Bridget. Do you have to buy the tickets before, or can you come and get it? How does it work?
It's best to buy the tickets before, that way you won't be disappointed when you come. So you can get in touch with myself or Chair Carleen at 503-6484. Last time you were able to just come and pick and order there at the same time, but a number of people were greatly disappointed, and we don't want that to happen again. So it's best to pre-order.
Good. Could you repeat that number?
503-6484. That's for Chair Carleen, and I am at 469-0880.
Thank you.
And we'll be happy to get the tickets to you.
Okay, thank you, Secretary Bridget. Any more announcements? All right. I know we have had a long evening. And we apologize to those who had other places to go, but learning how hurricane benefits us was something that we really wanted to hear the full presentation. So at this point, I am going to ask everyone to raise your glass or your imaginary glass and raise a toast to Kiwanis International, Jamaica land we love. It's now 5 minutes past 9, and this meeting of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston is now terminated. Thank you all for coming. I hope we'll all think about hurricane differently, although no matter how many benefits I hear about, I mean, other people can keep it. I'll do without. But it was great to have that presentation. And it was great seeing you all, and hope to see you again next week, Tuesday. Thank you. My thing seemed to be frozen again.